Hattie and I am back with another speed build. So this time we are going to be building Beauty and the Beast's castle, and this is a collaboration with my good friend Angie aka Kaleidow. She's going to be doing the interior and I would highly recommend you go and check that out on her channel because she is incredible at decorating houses. She did a Greek mansion not long ago and it was absolutely incredible. So the links will be below and they should also be popping up on the screen now. So you can go over to her channel and you can go and see her version of what the interior looks like. So this was very, very tricky to do. It was probably one of the trickiest things that I've done on The Sims 4. And if I hadn't done Hogwarts, if I hadn't done the Great Gatsby Mansion, I doubt I would have been able to do this. So it was really, really hard and I had a lot of ideas for it. I've always said that I would never do Disney mansions or Disney castles before, whatever you like to call them, but I've always said that I would never do it. And the reason is because we don't have terrain tools, I don't really know how it's pronounced. But either way, we don't have them, and that is really problematic for builds which are on cliff sides and things like that. So for Disney Frozen's or Elsa's Frozen Castle, that's something that I've wanted to do for a while, and I wouldn't be able to do that, or at least not until now. I don't think I would be able to do that because I've never found a way that I could do it. And whilst I was thinking about ideas for the build, I was thinking, why don't I just dig into the build? Like, why don't I just go into the basement and just do some really crazy fancy stuff? Because I don't think I've seen this done before on a build, or at least I haven't seen anything on the Sims 4 gallery like this. So I had a lot of fun creating this. It was a really unusual build, but I absolutely loved it. And I loved the films when I was younger. And it was actually Angie that suggested that we should do it. So I was really, really excited to do a collab with her because I know how amazing she is at making videos and I love her channel. Like, I probably watch her channel more than I watch my channel. So I think it's just a lot of fun to do something with a friend as well. And yeah, I think this build is just a really cool thing. So I can't wait to see the interior. I imagine that the interior for this build is going to have loads of red carpets and things, and I would love to see a ballroom. So yeah, we shall see, we shall see. But at this point, what I was doing is I was going around the build and I was improvising. I was actually making up a lot of parts of this mansion or castle. I don't really know what you call it, palace even, because a lot of the pictures weren't really showing the back. Well, of course, they probably weren't showing the back, but in the film and things, it was just very, very difficult to get a good view of what it looks like from the back because it's a picture of something. It's like a animated castle as far as I know. Of course, it was inspired by several different castles, but I would imagine that in the film, it's not going to be accurate. It's going to be somebody's interpretation of all the different ideas they've put together after seeing loads of pictures. So for me to go and do the back and the sides of this build was pretty hard. It wasn't actually that big. So I think it's going to be interesting on the inside. And I think that it's going to be very playable because even though it looks humongous, it really does by the end, I think that this house is going to be a very, very easily playable house. So if you did want to put a family in it, if you did want to recreate Belle or the Beast and have them in this house, that would be absolutely amazing. Then go and tag me and Kaleidow on Twitter and we can see your creations. That would be really cool. But I was going around and I was putting in the roofing. I was trying to follow the pictures as much as possible. I actually made like a Photoshop collage of just different views of the Beauty and the Beast castle. I know that the film's coming up and that was why we decided to recreate it in the first place because the new film trailer is out. I actually tried to find the official film trailer. I don't think I was even watching the right one, to be quite honest. I think I was watching the fan-made one because it was like Emma Watson and then Harry Potter and I was like, okay, what's going on? What is this? But no, I think it's going to be really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing it and I will definitely be watching it. But let me know in the comments if you're going to be watching the new Beauty and the Beast film because that would be really cool if you are. I also wanted to create loads of lovely balcony areas because balcony areas in The Sims 4 is just something that I love. If you watch my other builds, my other castles or anything like this really, I always tend to create houses with balconies, or at least I try to. I really, really do. And the reason why is because screenshots are just perfection on houses like this with the Sims just hanging off the balcony there. Not literally, but just hanging off. I just think that would be incredible for a screenshot and I would love to see that. So I think it's going to be really fun to have the Sims maybe out here You could even create it so you have loads of people wanting to get into the castle. Maybe Gaston and his team, because if I remember in the film correctly, I think they try and barge into the castle, but I'm not too sure. So you could have them all down at the bottom trying to break in, and the beast at the top looking over the mansion balcony, and it could look absolutely amazing. So if you do that, let me know, because of course I love to know what people do with my builds after I build them. This was when I was just adjusting the sides. The sides were getting on my nerves, to be quite honest. They really were, and they do sometimes, because it was too wide. The build was just really wide at this point, and a good way of making the build look tall, because in The Sims 4 we have limits, like the walls you can only build up to the 4th floor, which is really bad, but I wish we could build higher than that. If you also want me to build another one of these styles of castles, then of course let me know as well, because I could take on the challenge. It's something that I'm considering after building this, so I don't really know what I'm gonna do. I have no idea. But I had a lot of fun, and I also used a lot of the Sims 4 get-together things. So if you don't have the Sims 4 get-together, I'm not sure if this castle will have this whole effect to it, because a lot of the pieces that I used on top of the build, I feel like they really gave something to it, and that was where I got a lot of the decoration ideas from, just by adding pieces that we got with the Sims 4 get together. If you don't have it and you do really want this build, then what I would say is use pillars instead, or something that you could add to the top of it to give that really unique look, I would say. So that is what I'd recommend. I can't remember if Disneyland even has a Beauty and the Beast castle. I think there's a Minnie Mouse house, and that's the closest you get. I would love to see Belle's house though, because that's a really, really cute little build. And that's actually a build that I built ages ago. That was one of my first builds in The Sims 4. I actually built Belle's house probably about 10 months ago now, so a really long time ago. But I think that Disney World, I can't remember, because I've only ever been to the one in Florida, and I really, really loved it there, but I can't remember what it has. I think that, of course, you have Belle and the Beast walking around, and that's really cool. I actually found this out from somebody that used to work at Disney World, and I don't know if this is true, but if anyone's ever worked at Disney World that watches this, then let me know. Because apparently if you work at Disneyland and you dress up as one of the characters, you're not allowed to ever say to anybody which character you actually played as. So you could say, for instance, if you played as Belle, you could say that you're a friend of Belle's, but you're never actually supposed to say that you're directly playing Belle. I always used to go around with my sister and go and collect the different stamps from the different places, and there would be these pressed coins and you get to see them go around in the machines. I used to love that. And I remember one of my favourite characters at the park was Tigger, and I forgot that you had to queue, and I went and hijacked him for about 30 minutes, and all the other people were waiting, and I just remember that I was probably only 6 or 7, but I really got shouted at because of that. I think that everybody in my family always used to have their own favourite Disney characters. My mum always used to absolutely love Cinderella, and my granddad used to love Pinocchio. And he used to tell me that if I ever told lies, my nose would grow and I'd become wood. I remember that every time we used to go around to my granddad's house, or at least grandparents' house, they would play The Little Mermaid with my sister and I, and my granddad would always be Ursula, and that was the highlight of my week. So that was always really, really fun and interesting. I always used to love the baddies in films, and in fact we have a really good Sims hairstyle for Ursula, so if you want me to create some Sims baddies, then let me know, because I could definitely do a create a sim of that, and that would be no custom content, because if I'm going to share them on the Sims 4 gallery, I don't think I'll use custom content for that. But anyways, so I think that Gaston is a really, really good baddie for the Beauty and the Beast, and the reason is because he looks typically like a really good-looking muscular prince, or at least how a good-looking muscular prince should appear. But I actually really like the message that Beauty and the Beast gives to younger people watching the movie, and that is to never judge a book by its cover. And Belle's unconditional love for the Beast is something that is really nice for kids to learn when they're younger, and that's something that I got from that film when I was younger, and I thought to myself when I was really, really young, I want to be like Belle. And I think that I have started to notice more and more important messages with Disney films. So for instance, Brave, even though it's a Disney Pixar movie, I did notice that there was a really strong message in that she picks her own fate, and I love that because it's not the typical storyline that the princess meets the prince, they fall in love at first sight and that's it. it's a little bit more than that, and I love what they're trying to do there. So that is why I did like Beauty and the Beast, because I felt like that was one of the first steps in the right direction for Disney. So that was what I liked about it. This was the part when I started adding in the windows. Now, I know that it's really late to add in the windows, and I did that on purpose. I wanted to leave it quite late into the build when I started to add them, and that's because I wanted to get the shape right, and I think that that's good. I've made the mistake in the past that I add the windows pretty much as soon as I've just put the walls in, and that doesn't help usually. I think that making the shape right is the most important thing, and then when the shape's right you can put the windows in, and that's how I felt with that. And also I was trying to work out exactly what size of the windows I would use, because that was really important. But all the windows I used were all Sims 4 get together, so the doors as well. I think we got them with the spooky stuff pack though, but I can't remember. We got a lot of stuff from that spooky stuff pack now I'm thinking about it. I do use it a lot, and I know that some people are really disappointed about the spooky stuff pack, and I do get it. I do understand that some of the stuff was not reusable, or at least you wouldn't be able to use it in the long term, and it wouldn't have a massive effect on the game. But some things like the wallpapers and the floorings I found really, really good. But anyway, so I was adding some roof features. I added some of those roof pieces which look like it's a 5th floor, I believe. I think it is. So that's really, really handy, because I couldn't go any taller, of course, and to add that I thought was a really good thing. And those massive windows, I loved them as well. And I think that at night time, when you can see the lights in this house, I think it's going to look really fairy tale like, and I'm really excited for that. I also added 2 doorways, so hope Angie doesn't mind having a massive entrance there, because it's going to be pretty big. I don't know why I did that really. I think it was because I would have really liked to have seen a door with a 3-piece stretch. I don't know if that makes sense, but to have it so that it's a big wide door rather than have it over 2 spaces. So 2 wall spaces is the doors that we have already. So it's really difficult to explain, but I would love a door like we have that stained glass window down there. So I added a stained glass window so it looks like a door, and then there's 2 doors either side of it. If I could design my own door for The Sims, I think I would design an archway with some really fancy ivy around it, and I would love to make it look like a magic door, which was huge, and I feel like for big builds that would be a really cool thing to have. So I hope we get more big doors, because I know that the Beauty and the Beast castle does have a massive door, and that is something which is quite a large feature in the build. So sorry that I couldn't include that, because it just wasn't doable in The Sims 4, unfortunately. But I was playing around with a bridge at this point, so I tried to create a really fancy bridge here. I tried to create the biggest drop that I possibly could, because for me, it's really, really scary to walk across bridges. I don't think I've ever been in a situation where I've had to walk across a bridge like this, but if I was in a situation like this, then I would be very, very frightened. And I think that that's something which drew me to the pictures of the Beauty and the Beast castle in the first place. That's one of the first things that I noticed. One of the first things that I resembled the castle with was how tall up it was, and how just amazing the bridge looked and the scenery around it. So I thought that would be a really important thing to include, and especially since I couldn't do the door, of course, which is a massive beast door, and I just thought this would be really important. So tried to do it. I think I copied a lot of ideas that I did from Hogwarts when I built Hogwarts for The Sims 4. I did a similar bridge like this, but I think this one's a little bit more frightening. And I think that's because it also has water below it. So I don't really know what's in the water around it. I think that that's really cool though for the build. So hope you can like that. This was a time when I was adding in some landscaping around the build. So I started to add the trees, and this is when I started to think, actually, I'm really, really happy with the way that it's turning out. I think that with the trees, it looks like it's its own separate world. So even though it is on the biggest plot in the game, so it's on a 64 by 64, I think it looks like its own land, and that's really important for me to make it blend into the bluffs, and that's what I was trying to do here. So I had a real hard time with the rocks. I think the rocks alone probably took me about an hour and a half of this build, and I was just going around enlarging them. I've had some problems with my mouse since, and I think it's because of the rocks, because I just spent so long doing a repetitive action, and yeah, I really, really did. But I wanted to make it as accurate as I could and make it look really, really scenic, and I hope you like it. But this was when I was doing the waterfall, so I definitely wanted a waterfall. I just couldn't figure out how to do it. I didn't want to go too modern though, because the problem is with a lot of the water features in The Sims 4, they've made it very modern. That's one of the only things I don't like about some of the see-through windows. I wish they're a little bit more old-fashioned sometimes, and I think that with waterfalls and things, it would be really nice to have had, maybe with a spa day retreat, some traditional things. So I did actually add one of the water features which looks like running water, but of course it's going to look a little bit modern, and I didn't really want that. So I hope that's all right, but of course I couldn't do anything else. I really, really hope we'll get some water features in the future, which could be a proper waterfall. Of course, we've got terrain tools. I mean, if we've got similar terrain tools that we've got with The Sims 3, that would be absolutely spectacular, and I could do so much with that, and I'd be so excited, but of course, this is what I had to do. I think it does look pretty nice though. I did something similar in the Rainforest Cafe, so if you've seen that build, it's very similar to how that works. And I like the idea of making it look a little bit more frightening with water there. So I was pretty happy to add this, and I think it looks really, really effective with rocks across, but it took me ages to get those rocks there. Probably about 20 minutes just to do that row, so quite a lot. And they were really, really small rocks. Of course, the rest of the rocks were massive, so yeah, quite a long time. But something that I really do like about Disney at the moment is the conspiracy theories around some of the storylines. And I love the storylines about Belle. In fact, I've been listening to loads of Disney and Pixar as well. The conspiracies that people have made about it, and I get really interested by that. And something that which really stood out to me was the storyline that Belle might actually be Jane's grandmother. And I thought that that was really unusual, but when I actually saw the facts behind it, it was really interesting, and that might be the case because of course they are quite similar, and looking at Tarzan and how Jane is in that, she is quite similar looking to Belle, and also they do share a lot of similarities, so I'm not really sure. But anyway, I was finishing off this massive pile of rocks. So what I was trying to do is I was trying to make it look like there wasn't a wall there, and it was just resting on a massive pile of rocks. And of course it's not exactly like that, it's more on a cliffside, but that was the best that I could do in The Sims 4. Of course, you can remove the rocks if you want. In my opinion, it will look a little bit plain, but I can see why some people might not want the rocks there. So that might be a little bit problematic. But the rocks are base game, which is really, really good because I know that some people did have some problems with Hogwarts. I used chairs for Hogwarts. So I used these stone chairs that we got with Outdoor Retreat. And someone sent me a picture of when they downloaded Hogwarts. And instead of having rocks just surrounding the build, there was just hundreds and hundreds of chairs just everywhere. So that was really crazy to see, but I'm happy that this won't happen with this build, of course. But anyway, so I figured out that I couldn't get water, and the reason why I couldn't get water is because you can't have a wall floor below the height of 2, so I couldn't do that, and I was really angry about that. I was like, how can I make this look like there's water underneath? And the best way that I could do it was by using a floor tile that looked watery, so that's the best that I could get, and I think that it looks okay. It still looks like it's water, and of course from this far up you won't even be able to notice the difference. That's what I thought anyway. But if you can think of a better solution, I'd love to know for next time, because if I ever do a build like this again, that would really help me out. So I was going around these sides at this point, and I was trying to make it look like it all blended in, and this was really just finishing it off. I wanted to make it look like there was a moat. And I would of course love to imagine that maybe the monster from The Sims 4 get together, I think she's called Emily, I think the sea monster is. I would love to imagine that she could end up in here and protect the castle. I would just love that idea because I love the idea of sea monsters, and I just think it's a really cool idea, and for Windenburg to have that, I just think it's an amazing thing, and I love to look for when I'm at the bluffs, or at least the islands, the bluffs in the bluffs, I have no idea, but it's the place where you go for parties, and it's got the natural spring there, or the springs, and I love that anyway. So I was putting some details at the front, but I actually later removed those, so you'll see that in the screenshots, because the bushes that I put at the front, they were too tall for the gallery photo, and I wanted people to be able to see it, so I actually cut those back because I thought it would be more accurate that I cut them back anyway. So I was pretty happy with that. This was one of the last things that I did. So I added a garden, and I thought I would add a garden inside the premises because I thought that would be really important. And of course, Angie can change this if she wants to. It was just to have something there so it wouldn't look so plain. But I didn't add any furniture to the balconies because I wasn't sure what to put there. I was like, I don't know, I have no idea. Of course, I would imagine roses to be there and all sorts of things, but we shall see. I'm really excited for it, to be honest. But this was when I was putting some flower beds. So some flower beds were going around here. I decided to go for red because I don't know if we can have rose bushes. I think we actually can, but I didn't use any, which was really silly of me. But I did put a water fountain or a mill. So I think that's what you call it. So there's one of those there, and it's like a magical mill. So that could be something which you could have some fun with. You could take some screenshots with it and you could use it in a magical way and it could look really amazing. And I thought the garden, because it was so small, I would just add some flowers and just make it look really scenic. But that is the end of the build. So I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see your future videos. Thank you so much for watching, and I will speak to you all soon.